What's going on? What's going on? This is Phil Jones coming to you guys live in effect. Phil Jones, Mike Jones. Have you guys know me personally and professionally? You guys know who the most handsome person on the face of the planet is. And no, I'm not referring to myself. State your name.
I am Midas. Make sure you put a king in front of that. Let's go.
Y'all already know. Our mama say he the most handsome. So I got to deal with that. Anyways, so today we are getting ready to get live in effect on this POV point of view podcast, point of view network, however you guys want to refer to us. We got a video for y'all and we're
hmm
about to react to it. And it's kind of got some trigger points to it. Why don't you go ahead and tell them a little bit about the background?
It's spicy. So we got a feminist that's pretty much dogging men out for losing their jobs based off child support. They think, or she thinks, that men don't put forth enough effort. She does not believe in 50-50 custody, and the list just goes on. But there is like a ton of trigger points in this video.
All right, so we're gonna try not to pause too many times in the video, but when we got to deliberate on something, we got to shed a point of view. Trust and believe it's gonna be worth every second of it. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Drum roll, please.
But if you still want to be in that child's life and you want to be involved, then you will have to pay child support. So
no, they take it directly out of your bank account. You can lose your fishing license. You can
no. Poor man.
It is. It's really sad. There's men that kill themselves over this. I know you think it's funny, but like I've interviewed men that were a mile from their kids and haven't seen them in years. In general, if there's no abuse or
that right there, like trigger point one right there.
So in many instances, one of the issues that I generally have with people who use condescending tones, you have no idea what it's like to be in the position of men, to even understand to what degree men go through, especially when dealing with child custody. I have to say that I am very fortunate to not be one, but I'm surrounded by them. And it's more common in this community than it is probably in most communities, but I will say specifically because of the negative effects. There's some problems, some very, very deep rooted problems. And then to make such light of the problems that men have to face when it comes down to trying to get a fair shake in the penal system is wild.
It really is. And there's a lot of, things regarding mental health that, it does not get looked at seriously. It's not taken seriously. The level of stress, the level of anxiety. I mean, everything just multiplies tenfold when it comes with dealing with, like you said, the penal system and trying to see your kids, and that your kids are being weaponized against you. Uh, your pockets are getting drained. Your mental health is getting drained. Everything is getting drained. Then on top of that, if you're not meeting these obligations, these heavy obligations that the court systems is setting on you, now you not only are you getting drained of things, but now you're getting things taken away from you. Now your driver's license is gone. Now your fishing license gets taken. There's more to it. There's more other things that a lot of people don't think about that do also get taken away from you as well. So now my piece, my thing that I like to do, I like to be out on my little 12-footer, 14-footer, just trying to relax, escape from the world. I can't do that because my license got snatched from me.
And even like with this is just like, she's young, clearly. And I think that a lot of times, because of the fact that people have become so married to ideology so young, that they don't have any real world understanding of the things that they hold themselves to. And age and experience has a tendency to humble people. But let's proceed.
or anything crazy like that, 50-50 off the bat as a starting point.
I think that every case should be taken into account from its individual and nuanced perspective. I think that, sure, abuse should absolutely be taken into account, but also should finances, also should desire for childcare, also should geographical location, like all of these different things.
But I'm asking for a starting point, 50-50 custody off the bat.
I think that each partner should be looked at equitably, and there should be no discrimination towards either from the get-go.
From the get, like, okay, so we would agree off the bat, starting, it's 50-50. I understand if there's abuse, if there's one parent wants to work more, totally fine, they can work that out. But I'm saying to start off the bat, 50-50 custody, no child support, no alimony.
No, that's not what I said.
Okay, no child support, no.
That's not what I said. We're absolutely never ever taking child support and alimony off the table.
So
Even she talking sideways. So it's like, okay, every situation is individual, nuanced. Okay, both parties need to be looked at equally. Okay, let's look at geographical location. Let's look at equity and all this other stuff. But alimony and child support, that will never be taken off the table. So you halfway stepping.
You know, the thing that caught me, the thing that I found to be the most interesting about what was just said there, was the fact that you say that everything needs to be looked at. When you say that nothing needs to be taken off of the table and that everything needs to be looked at equitably, you see, this is that mess that is oftentimes spoken of a lot of times in like extreme left liberal circles. This concept of equality of outcome, but it can't be equality of outcome for both parents. So are we progressive when it comes down to all things, such as we weigh the better parent who might be more qualified to parent, or are we still old school where it benefits us, but we're liberal in the points that benefit us? That's what I'm confused about.
It's the latter, because if we're talking about child support in an actual, real, serious, logical sense, the parent that makes the most money should be the one with the child.
You know, and then with some of those factors, because again, there are factors. If I make more money and then but I'm working 60, 70 hours a week, I feasibly do not have the time to be with that child. So when you have to weigh out school and you have to weigh out activities, you have to weigh out certain things that you probably need somebody that's more available for time for, that really depends on the lifestyle that's been provided for that child. It's not that all of a sudden now that in the divorce, oh, I wanted to take ballet, I wanted to do all these things so that I could suck all the resources out of you.
Right.
It's one of those things where it's like, if this is like most things, is like, if there's a lifestyle, I am responsible for maintenance of that lifestyle, right? So we don't just get to make it up as we go along, and all of a sudden now I'm just supposed to go with the flow, and then the judge just sides with that.
But they do, and there's multiple cases that you can actually research that it's just been ebb and flow. Like, well, now I want to put him in football. Now I want to put him in gymnastics, or put her in gymnastics. Now I want to put him in karate. Now I want to do all these things when we wasn't doing all that before. Well, I want him in Jordans. Well, he wasn't wearing Jordans when we was together. Well, he only eats steak and potatoes and lobster, and all. Well, he wasn't eating all that when we was together. Why he got to eat all that now? Like, he's only 4. Like, why?
And I've seen cases similar to that, to where the mom puts them like on very strict vegan diets and stuff like that. It's like, oh well, I don't want him to be at dad's house because he's not going to adhere to the diet that was set for him. It's like, it doesn't make a lot of sense. So
and to your point, maintaining a lifestyle, 100%, absolutely. Where we were at is what I should maintain, is what the child should be maintained to. But after you're gone, if I go from driving Camry to now driving BMW, that don't mean that I need to now pay for mom to have a BMW. Like, that does not logically make sense to me. If I go from 2-bedroom house to now 4-bedroom house, that doesn't mean that I now have to get mom a 4-bedroom house. Like I'm not maintaining her life. That's not how that go. Or it shouldn't. That shouldn't how it should go.
Well, in
She
essence, when
got work too.
exactly, well, in essence, is in pertaining to the video specifically, I would like for her to detail what her idea of equity is. Because obviously, if you don't agree to starting point 50-50 custody before alimony, before child support, what is equity to you? That's
I
what I
mean,
like.
I mean, we already know what the situation is going into the courtroom in these particular situations. Majority of the time, we already know it's 100-0. So trying to get that 50-50, yeah, it's a stretch. It's a stretch, but we already know what it is.
Well, and again, like that's why I said, considering the video, considering the young lady that's on the video, I would like to know in her progressive circle that she employs this ideology by which she just completely baffled me with. What does equality look like when entering into these situations based on what you see? That's what I would like to know.
Well, equality, based off how she's talking, and not talking for her, but based off what she is conveying to us, and with the sarcasm and all that going on, there is no equality, equity. It's you do for me, and then I'll decide if I'm going to do something back. I'll decide if I'm going to provide you something back in return, but you are always going to do 100% of what you are traditionally supposed to do. You're going to hold my door, you're going to pay all the bills, you're going to make sure the grass is cut, you're going to do everything.
Well, let's see. Let's dig a little bit deep and let's see if she gives us any kind of real world example of what this egalitarian lifestyle that she proposes looks like.
Alimony?
That's not what I said
No,
either.
I'm asking you, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, so as I previously said, I think that each case should be analyzed and should be, you know, when it comes to finances, when it comes to abuse, when it comes to all of these things, like that's going to be so unique to each individual circumstance. So to say no alimony or full child support or 50-50, like these are people and people are complex. And so you seem to want simple answers for complex issues.
No, I want a starting point. I understand that it's complicated in family dynamics. There's abusive women, there's abusive men. That would change a family dynamic. You would agree,
Yeah.
right? There are differences in schedules for work. Totally can be worked out. But I'm saying off the bat, 50-50 custody, no child support, no alimony.
Yeah, and I disagree.
Yeah. And that's my point. Whenever I talk about an issue that would help men or be more fair to men and that benefits women, you don't give me a straight answer.
Who designed
And you
the
say
legal
it's
system?
complicated.
Who designed the legal system?
Who designed it?
Yeah,
I don't know.
men.
I mean, it depends because some of the laws are like Title 4D came in the past 50 years, I want to say. And by then, like women have the majority of voting power. So most of the laws in recent years are catered to women.
So actually, most of these laws are not determined by a vote. Most of these laws are determined by politicians. And right now, more men, historically and present day, hold positions of power. And so these policies that you're talking about are not policies that the population is voted on at large.
Please,
These are
please pause
policies
this.
that have been
Yes, yes, yeah. I had my finger on the button to pause it. Okay,
Oh my God. So
this
much,
is the
so much to unpack there. It's like it's the double speak for me, dog. It's the double speak. It's the word salad. It's the mincing of things. It's the never being able to provide a straight answer that always does it for me. Like if we're asking for a starting point, an area for us to employ across the board while we sort out the nuances. So you continue to talk about how unique each situation is, but as was stated, as Pearl stated, you cannot provide a straight answer. There is no straight answer. It's just I want to sound smarter than I really am, but I have nothing. It's kind of like that Barack Obama hope concept, to where it's
Mhm.
like, I don't really have a direction, but one day we're going to get there and we're going to be holding hands and it's going to be great.
That's right.
It's like there's nothing there that actually conveys a plan of action, which again, it's like it always baffles me when you start talking to certain people that we want to be so progressive in areas to where there's a direct benefit, but then we want status quo where we directly benefit. Make it make sense.
And not only that, man, it's the law thing where she says that laws don't get voted on. I don't know any law that has ever came into existence that the people is supposed to follow and it did not go through proper channels, get down to the floor, it gets presented and it gets voted on locally. Whenever there's something going on, for instance, okay, so over here in Park Forest, they were trying to bring a dispensary, or there was talks of wanting to bring a dispensary out here, and initially it was shot down. It was shot down, but there were a bunch of people that came to these board meetings to speak with the village, convey, what they thought would be fantastic for the village, what they thought would be detrimental to the village, and then they all sat around, they all heard, everybody's voice, and then there was a vote. So for things to go into effect and for it to uh affect everybody, it has to be a vote. It has to go through proper channels and it has to be voted on and agreed to. Yes, this is how we're doing it.
Let's face it, right? Most of us are not political science majors. And like I said, I don't know how old the young lady is, but I'm led to believe, listening to her and looking at her, that she's on the younger spectrum. I don't necessarily believe that a lot of people who have these feelings, these beliefs, that they are rooted in what they know, but rhetoric that they've been told. When I was on my pro-black kick, once I started to fact check a lot of those things that I was told, I came to the realization that there was a lot of that stuff that did not make sense.
I mean, there's a whole entire page dedicated on USA.gov. Okay. This is a government site. Okay. This is a government regulated site. It tells you in detail, step by step, how to make a law. There's a whole entire thing. You can't just say, can't nobody just wake up and say, we're going to call the sky orange, and anybody that disagrees uh goes into house arrest. Like, you can't do that.
Well, and again, you have to bear in mind that the quality of these conversations are not necessarily always meetings of the mind. A lot of the times you find people who they join into these conversations, and when they join into the conversations, they're joining under the guise that everybody is on the same exact bandwidth, or they're on the same frequency of thought. And again, remember, like we were talking earlier in private, and part of the conversation that we were having was, some of these people, they are so egalitarian in their minds that they believe that if you don't agree with them, that there's something wrong with you because they are the moral superiors. So in this situation, this philosophy begs that you are the moral superiority when it comes down to what's in the best of children and mothers' rights. And judging from the smugness of her responses, you are very anti-man. You don't care if the man benefits or if he doesn't benefit. You just care if he upholds his end of the bargain, and his end of
Correct.
the bargain is determined solely based off of what you think he should be doing today.
That's it. Hold on.
been designed primarily by men in power. So if you want to talk about how the system is detrimental to men, you also need to recognize that men are detrimental to men.
Right, but who are they representing? The politicians. Who votes more?
Who votes more?
Yeah, who turns up to vote more? Who is the majority of the population?
Women.
Okay, so they represent women's interests.
Not necessarily, no.
And you can see that. What percent of the time do men get custody in family court?
So it actually, now the majority of child custody cases are joint custody.
That's not true.
It is. It's about 50.3%.
Men only get custody 10% of the time.
So we're looking at different statistics.
Most alimony payments are men to women. Most child support payments are men to women.
And that's because historical precedent. Yeah. You have to take into like historical context of like and also men earn more than women. Like there's so much nuance to this. But from Cornell, I was reading a study by Cornell University that looked at divorces and custody and all these things. And the majority, I think it was 50.3% of child custody cases end up as being joint custody.
The majority of child support and alimony payments are men to women.
Yeah, because men earn more.
That is the biggest wealth transfer in the United States. If women want to be independent, I actually have no problem. Like as I said before, I think it's very impressive you became a doctor. I just think that women that want to take that path should pay for it.
So do you think that the money is for her or for the children?
I think that women do not always spend it on the kids.
Because it takes more to actually
there
run a household.
There are men in poverty over these laws.
Yeah, and a lot of child support isn't paid either. And you can also opt out of child support by relinquishing your parental rights in a lot of states. So if you don't want any rights as a parent, then you can relinquish those rights and then you won't be held accountable for child support. But if you still want to be in that child's life and you want to be involved, then you will have to pay child support. So
no, they take it directly out of your bank account. You can lose your fishing license. You can
no. Poor man.
She said that you don't have to pay child support if you opt into giving up your parental rights. So child support can just poof go away even though it's been ordered. All I got to do is just relinquish my parental rights and poof, child support gone.
Let's fact check. Got to fact check the fact checkers. So let's pull up what I found. Hold on. Let's got to fact check the fact checkers. So can you see that screen, King? No. Okay, so, and I want to make sure that I get the source right. It says, no, a man cannot simply give up his parental rights to avoid paying child support. In most jurisdictions, terminating parental rights does not automatically relieve a parent of their financial responsibility towards the child, meaning they may still be obligated to pay child support even if they relinquish their rights to the child. Now let's see where that came from.
Because AI gave me a totally different, or Google rather, gave me a totally different answer. It says, yes, generally, if you give up your parental rights, your child support obligation ends as you no longer have legal responsibility for the child. However, this only applies if the child is subsequently adopted by another person. Oh, the child has to be adopted. So your finding stands. So this is complete rubbish. What was the point of this? This is rubbish. So your stance.
So unfortunately, and we'll get back into the video in a couple of seconds. Unfortunately, what happens is like what happens a lot of times is the fact that you'll find that thing that we call confirmation bias. That all it requires you to do is just find somebody to say, and then, if I'm not mistaken, I think I heard Pearl say that she was a doctor. I like to do some research on the young lady, find out who she is, a little bit more about her background, because again, I don't like to just automatically go off the hinges and say somebody is dumb. But what I will say is that a lot of people who are the face of an argument are not always the most well versed and well educated in the argument. And I don't think that she is putting up a very good case for her rhetoric. I do feel like it's just regurgitated talking points from previous people before her, and nothing is really being brought new or interesting to the table that's relevant to why we need to maintain status quo versus changing things to make it a tad bit more fair for the man. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a man. I'm saying that because I didn't find anything quality to say, you know what, I may not like it, but I agree.
She's not trying to make it fair or equal for the man at all. She has no interest in that at all. And to her point, like, she basically blew past that whole statement with, well, who created the system?
I mean, it's kicking the can down the road. I mean, it happens. It happens often, and it's just one of those situations where you have to be mindful of the fact that, excuse me, you have to be mindful of the fact that people are not always, do you have children? Sometimes when people mention stuff, it's like it's interesting to me that people who have never raised a child have such strong stances on what goes on in the lives of people who have children, people who have never been married and who have no idea how difficult marriages are, how difficult communicating with another human being about every aspect of life and how difficult that is. It's like a lot of people have this view from the outside looking in, and they hear stories. They watch TV, they see these thought pieces that are either from a liberal point of view or a conservative point of view, but they never actually have the adequate experience to know what this thing is like to truly be in the field. And this is what I feel like we're getting here, is that it's somebody who has very little knowledge, practical or otherwise, that's trying to speak on behalf of an extremely delicate subject matter.
Yeah, and to your point, yeah, I definitely feel that all she's done is taken in a bunch of YouTube, taken in a bunch of Instagram and TikTok. Uh, the women that she's been around and have, sucked up all of this nonsense basically, and it's reality to her.
And even then, it's like, because the Cornell study that she cited, about 50.3% of divorces ending in joint custody. That joint custody is not mutual joint custody on what she's speaking on. It's generally dad's getting weekends and every other holiday, and mom getting majority of the time. We're not talking about mutual custody. Joint custody just means that you get some time, you get some time, but there's 7 days in a week. You can't possibly have
Right,
mutual.
right. Split it, right.
So even if it was 6 months with dad, 6 months with mom, that makes sense.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was going. I was literally just about to say that. If you split the year in half, yes.
But again, it's like these loosely interpreted facts. Is like people speak on a very surface level playing field. And remember how I was talking to you about how like Umar Johnson and various other thought leaders, how they gloss over a lot of topics. They never actually get in depth with things. They just gloss over a bunch of subject matter, and they sound smart. It's kind of like how we were talking about the Roland Martin situation.
Mhm.
They're literally the icing on the cake over a bunch of situations that there's nothing substantial being brought to the table. And that's kind of what's happening here.
It is. It's really there's men that kill themselves over this. I know you think it's funny, but like I've interviewed men that.
Did you see that? Did you see that? There are men killing themselves over this. And she just rolled her eyes and smirked.
You have to bear in mind that she's on a popular channel, and she's going to go back to whomever is part of her think tank, and she has to look like a hero in this space. So you have to also take into consideration that yes, some people may genuinely feel like this, and some people may definitely be that egregious with their body language and their attitudes towards certain situations. But I do think that social media is attention, and attention is one hell of a drug. So I do feel that a lot of that is for the camera. And if she does genuinely feel like that, whatever happens with her going forward, that's her business.
We're a mile from their kids and haven't seen them in years. And they wanted nothing. I know you think it's like funny, but it's really not.
No, I don't think that it's funny. I think that you bringing up men losing their fishing licenses while talking about women bearing the majority of like childcare duties is that like comparison is humorous to me. Not men unaliving themselves, not men losing money, but just like that comparison is humorous.
That's like one of many things that they lose. They lose their fishing license. Like that's one.
No.
But my point is that it's unconstitutional. Like I know you think it's funny, but it's really not. I mean, men are 9 times more likely to commit suicide after a divorce. This literally kills men.
Yeah, exactly, because men actually benefit from marriage more than women do. And when you look at the statistics of like post-divorce mental health outcomes, men have worse mental health outcomes than women. Women are typically happier after divorce. And so if you want to argue that marriage disproportionately benefits women, like that's not true.
I'd be pretty unhappy too if I was on child support or alimony and I had a hard time seeing my kids.
And you had to support your children. What a hard life.
Well, you understand that it's not taxed. So the problem is they take over 50% of the man's income because it's not, so they have to pay taxes on the stuff they're giving her and take half of his paycheck.
To support his children that he wants to be involved in their lives.
Right, but it wasn't his choice because women leave the majority of the time.
It is his choice to relinquish his parental rights if he wants to.
What I'm saying is many men want to be married and they want to be an involved father and they want to stay with the mother of their children. My point is if she makes the decision to leave, she should pay for it. If you want to leave, that's totally fine, but you should pay to raise your kid.
Is it not his child as well?
And he should pay for the time. That's why I said 50-50 custody off the bat, no child support, no alimony.
So she gets to take on all of the childcare responsibilities, but he doesn't have to like pay anything. He doesn't have to have any buy-in.
I didn't say all, I said 50-50 custody. He should have the kid half the time.
But doesn't have to pay any money towards it.
No, he should pay for the kid when the kid's at his house.
Okay, and so the majority of the time when the kid is at the mother's house, he doesn't have to be involved in any way financially?
No, she should pay for it. She has a job. Why should he have to pay for a kid?
He should.
You see what I mean? Regardless if it's 50-50, I still think that he is obligated to traditionally do what a man is supposed to do, and he is to pay for everything. He needs to pay for his house. He needs to pay for my house. He needs to pay for his car. He needs to pay for my car. He needs to pay his utilities. He needs to pay for my utilities. He needs to pay for everything the kid need at his house. And he needs to pay for everything the kid need at my house. I should not have to come out of pocket anything, regardless if I'm a rocket scientist making $1 billion a year.
You see, and again, it's like it's conversations like these to where you have a certain subset of women who are revealing themselves, and in doing so, you don't leave very many men, at least in the modern day, hopeful for marriage. It doesn't make somebody say, "Yeah, man, that's what I want. I can't wait to go and be the best version of myself, to walk into a situation for you to leave, no fault, and take my stuff." Now, again, to her earlier point, there's a lot of nuances, a lot of different conversations. Like, and again, depending on who you talk to, people will have point of views, and I won't say anybody's disqualified to have that point of view. But when you see a disproportionate amount of any side doing one thing or the other, I think that should be looked at and it should be analyzed with a microscope. I don't think anybody should have to feel like they're trapped inside of a marriage, but I don't think that it should be so easy to get in one, and it shouldn't be so easy to get out of one.
For sure. For sure.
I just really feel as if it's one of those situations to where it's like people do grow apart. People do get to places where some people are stagnant, some people are trying to excel. Some people get married for all the wrong reasons. Insert thing here. However, when you got in this thing, you understood what it was. And I believe that the courts should hold people liable to say, hey, guess what? If you commit a crime and you go to jail, there's no get out of jail free button. Well, you get into a marriage, which is also an institution of the state, you shouldn't be able to get a get out of marriage free button. I just don't think that that's the way that it should work. Now, again, who wants to be in a loveless, emotionless marriage where one person absolutely wants nothing to do with you? That's fine. There's again, like you know, and again, in saying this, you could argue both sides of the point, but in arguing the point, I think that one thing stands firm. If I did nothing wrong, and there's there's nothing that you could hold me to say that I did. There's no police reports, there's no records of abuse, there's nothing at all that you hold me to other than the fact that you call it irreconcilable differences, you call it whatever it is. When you walk out of that thing, you should legally be mandated to walk out of that thing with what you got, and that's it.
Yeah, what you came with.
You leave with what you came with. At that point in time, once you have stated that you no longer want to do this for reasons that are not associated with foul play, you should forfeit your right to anything.
Yeah, and that's what I was basically stating earlier, and I can't remember which artist said it. It might have been Tyrese during the interview, that he was basically saying, okay, if you with me, okay, and this is the life that I built, or this is how I operate and move. Okay, when you step into my life comes with this, my life comes with that. You know what I'm saying? The skyscrapers with the great views and whatever else. Okay, that's part of me. Now, when you decide to leave, you don't get to take the skyscraper with the views with you. You don't get to take all the Jaguars and all the Rolls Royces and all that with you. That's me. Same way that you came here should be the same way that you leave.
And I mean, I couldn't agree more. I think that it's very unfortunate the fact that like the whole maintaining of a lifestyle situation. I think that if the man did wrong and it was no fault of your own, yes, that man should have to maintain because you didn't have a choice in the matter.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that.
But if you willfully choose to leave on your own accord, you should not be allowed to walk out in a situation that is reminiscent of that. I should not be held to maintaining a lifestyle for you because you decided that you no longer wanted the life that also should include the lifestyle.
Correct.
That I just
If she can,
go ahead. Go ahead.
No, you was probably about to drop a bomb.
No. Listen, there's plenty more to go. Just go ahead. Keep going.
She could support it.
What if she chose to have the kid and she chooses divorce? Why should she not have to pay for her own decision? That's the thing. See, there it is. You want all the freedom to do whatever you want, but you don't want to have to pay for it.
No, because I also think that the way that you look at these issues and the way that you look at these divorces is very nefarious towards women. And so I just think that it's very interesting to see the way that you speak about women and the way that you think about women and the way that you think that we make these decisions as if we're just flippant.
Look at her left hand. Look like she might actually be married.
Yeah, I see a little bling there.
No, like when she was flicking her hand and stuff, like I saw this big gigantic ring. It's like I could only imagine what insufferable existence her husband has to deal with to listen to this every day, unless he on board with it. And if so,
you do got a lot of guys out there that they believe in this ideology. They believe in this.
You keep going, dog.
If I'm on board with this, if I believe in this, I can get the box.
I can't tell you what it is, bro.
If I ace metaphor myself, go down that road, I can get the box.
What is this woman's name?
I don't even remember, and I don't even care to know.
I gotta know. I gotta know because I don't like throwing bones at somebody's name that I didn't do my proper due diligence on. So I absolutely have to figure out who this woman is because it, this is some amazing stuff. It's like the parallels of, and again, it's like it's not a new argument. There's nothing new being brought to the table. It's deflecting. It's not actually answering. Like, yes, do women get held with the children majority of the time? Yes, this is true. What's not evaluated is, are mothers always the most qualified to have the children majority of the time? Is she the best resource? Does she have the best access to resources on behalf of that child post divorce? That's not always taken into consideration because the archaic view is that children are best with the mom. So again, that begs me to the
That's
question.
wrong, but
I mean, again, that begs to the question: when are we progressive, and when is status quo applicable? This is no this is the primary example. You will sit back and you'll throw. Well, guess what? Men created the law, so guess it's okay. Since men created the laws, we should just have to deal with it. That's okay. But then everything else is wrong because you don't directly benefit from it. And that's the thing that I find to be baffling. That is like, it's not saying that it's egalitarian to come and find the mutual playing field and let the best parent deal how they need to deal. It's not saying that, hey, the court is going to appoint somebody to work with you guys, a caseworker or something, so that you guys can get to a level playing field with co-parenting. None of that. None of that.
no, she don't want none of that. But she does want both situations equally looked into and equally things taken into consideration. But 50-50 is not on the table.
Then West, and again, that goes to earlier conversation we had before about equality and equity. That some people want to be put up here so that they can have the same view as you, and some people want the opportunity to get where you are by doing the steps, but not being refused an opportunity to walk that walk. And this is where a great deal of those ideologies come from. You want equity. You want to be put in a situation to where you benefit the way that you think that men are benefiting or have benefited, but then you want the special privilege of being a woman on top of that. So it's like, do you want equality or do you want special privilege? Choose one.
Hold on. Hold on. That's a bar.
Getting a divorce and like taking advantage of men as if like it's not more nuanced than that, because you don't seem to appreciate the nuance of the human experience and the complexity of relationships.
You know, I think there are valid reasons for divorce. If women want to divorce, that's totally fine. They can do that. I think that they should pay for their decisions. Again, this goes back to, I say if you want the freedom to do something, you should take the responsibility that comes with it. You want them to have the freedom to do something, but not have the responsibility that comes with it. So you say you can have the freedom to divorce. Totally, we agree, right? We can have the freedom to be a single mother, to go into medicine or whatever career you want, but I think you should have the responsibility to pay for it. And I don't think that, do you think that's unreasonable?
Well, I would just flip it around, right? I would say that if men want the freedom to be a part of their child's life, then they should accept the responsibility that that entails, which includes financial responsibility.
But women have the right to work now
Yeah, but men still out earn women.
because they do harder jobs.
Not necessarily, no. Because
You don't think doing an infrastructure job is more difficult than the number one employers of women, which is admin, assistants, education.
so
Education, you get out at like 3:00, 2:30. I mean, there's men dying, getting you the chair you're sitting on. There's men
Okay.
dying to protect you, literally.
So statistically, when they look at the gender wage gap, they've shown that women in the exact same positions with the exact same qualifications make less than men. So it's not this like strange overarching pattern that you like to point out that men are in these dangerous jobs and they run society. Like that's just not true when it comes to the gender wage gap. They've controlled for these variables when they study this, and there's still a very significant gender wage gap, even when you control for different industries, different degrees, different qualifications, different hours, women working all of the same things as men, hours, degrees, industries, education, whatever, still make less than men.
So I'm gonna take the wheel on this one. So I do work in the contracting, building type of industry. Okay, IT is where I'm at. So, but I don't do IT on more of like the software side. I do the hard side. Actually getting out there, running the cables, bending the conduit, installing, racks and you name it. Okay, so I'm actually doing the labor side of things. Okay, in these particular industries where I'm going into builds from ground up builds where we have to put the pipe in and do the necessary things that need to be done to get the conduit or whatever in so that we can run all of our wires so the lights can work, so that the internet can work, so that the servers and everything are working properly, so that the menu boards and everything and it all works. Okay, I don't see women. And it's not to say that there are no women in the industry at all. I'm pretty sure there are. But for 15 years, I have not seen any women. We drive past the men working on the roads. You don't see the women working the machinery. I have not heard of any women that do underwater welding. I've seen women firefighters. I have. That's probably the only time that I've really seen a woman really doing like a hard job. Uh, an underground, just underground work in general, where doing fiber, running the pipelines and everything underground. Don't see it. Infrastructure, like she said, that's a big one. Skyscrapers, working with all those I beams and all that, building all that, being miles and miles and miles and miles and miles up in the sky. And all you are is just tethered with a strap, building and welding. Don't see it. Don't see it. So we cannot compare a man that is doing hard back-breaking physical labor to what she just said. The number one jobs that hire are administration, HR, education. That's where there are. That's where they're at.
So
Retail, stuff like that.
so let's look at it from this. And this is generally overlooked a lot of the times. To assume that men and women, that there's a pay gap. Let's just run with that. Traditionally, men negotiate more often than women for in the same positions. When it comes down to pay, when it comes down to what they're offered, more oftentimes than not, women take the offer that's on the table and they don't negotiate. So, me as a father, when I go into a situation, I'm looking at not just going into that situation for me, but I'm looking at going into that situation for I have a family to take care of. I'm going to negotiate what's in the best interest of all of us, not just me. So there isn't always going to be pay. There'll be insurance. There'll be paid time off, various other things that are super important that I must have in order for me to move into another situation. Just like the last situation I just left, I moved myself out of that situation because A, promotability is much easier on this side of the fence. B, it's less mentally taxing to do. C, I get to spend more time at home with the people that I love. And D, I don't lose a cent. But again, when you're making decisions, sometimes in these situations, and it happens in more often than not situations, women do not exercise negotiating at the same rate as men. So if we're going to announce anything, we're going to say, oh, well, let's talk about the gender pay gap. Taking the first offer on the table.
You cut out for a second. It muffled a little bit.
See how they're trying to trick me because my skin a little light. Nah, but what I said is the questions that need to be asked is micro assessments. How often are women going into these interviews and they're taking the first offer that's on the table? How often do women know the value that they bring to a company and they're able to sit and go back and forth during the negotiations to express the value that they bring to those companies in comparison to their male counterparts? That's a big deal and is not always talked about. It is assumed that people are just offering men more money. That's not necessarily the case. And any HR representative will tell you that there is a range for every job, that when you walk into a job, there's a high side and a low side. If the job starts off at 65 and it caps at 95 and you negotiate 70, that's your problem. That is a you problem. That is not my male counterpart's problem because I negotiated 80 and you negotiated 70. That's not my problem. That's not a patriarchal issue. I just asked for more because I know what my value is worth. But again, we continue to talk about what gender wage gaps and different situations. If you have assessed every single area and that you can prove without a shadow of a doubt that women are negotiating at the same rate as men, but they're being lowballed, then that's a systematic issue as far as the bosses and the companies issue. That's not a patriarchy issue. The way that people are doing business is bad. But again, HR representatives far and wide are saying that women are negotiating far less than men for the same positions.
And my whole thought process behind it is, and I heard someone else say it, and it might have actually been Anton. I'm not sure, but if I can pay women way less, then I would just hire all women.
Seriously, common sense. If I could get away with paying a woman less money, then I would just hire nothing but women. Why would I hire a man to pay him more money when I can get the same work, if not more, from a woman for less money? That's common sense 101. I would have an all-female staff every day while I'm sitting here collecting a bonus for all the money that I've lowballed them. If I could get away with it, who in the hell would do that? Like, no, I need some testosterone in this building. So let me go ahead and shell out another $10,000-$20,000 a year.
But with DI, you would have had to.
Whatever the case. And again, DEI benefited her more than it benefited anybody else. Or at least it would have. Don't know if she did benefit from it or not, but statistically, it benefited white women more than it benefited anybody else.
I mean, I'm actually looking up a case right now that was posted on Forbes, um, about how this professor was pressing charges against the school that she worked at because there were 4 other professors working there that pretty much made significantly more than her. And I mean, needless to say, the case was thrown out because once it started getting into the nitty gritty of these other 4 professors, well, this professor not only worked at this university, but he also established a whole different center at a whole nother university and was directly working with that other university, fulfilling another role. This professor over here was doing this. This professor over there was doing that. They were doing more. All you do is come here and teach. That's it. That's all you do. There's nothing else extra that you're doing that can then buff up your pay. What else are you doing? Are you also creating different centers of research? Are you also, what else are you bringing to the table besides you just show up and teach? I mean, I think that's another problem as well, is that they think that they can just show up for one job and they're supposed to be able to buy the Bentley and everything with just that one job, working less hours. Now I do get it. There is the motherhood penalty. I'll give y'all that. There is the motherhood penalty. But just because you can get pregnant and all this other stuff, that don't mean that you are then still entitled to the exact same pay. You're not working. That does not make logical sense. What company would do that? They would go bankrupt.
Let's go ahead. Let's get some more of this beautiful bean footage.
So if you want to pull it back towards childcare or child support, then you have to recognize that, like, on a societal scale, like, the wage gap is there. And so that's also going to contribute to the gap in child support and financial responsibility.
Well, women don't do as good of a job. They don't produce as much in the workforce. That's why they get
actually
paid
incorrect.
less. They make 80% of the world's stuff. Women.
Okay.
Men have invented 90% of things. Men.
Where did you get that statistic?
Google it.
Google it. Right, I will.
I
would argue that especially historically.
A World Without Men, too. It's in that book.
Okay.
It's an economist. He breaks down.
I would argue that also, historically, women have been erased from their accomplishments. A lot of people don't know that Albert Einstein had a wife who actually helped him and got the same degrees that he did. She went to the same schools that he did, same classes, but they didn't award her a degree because she was a woman. And I'm not done. And she helped him develop the monumental calculations that we still utilize today. And he's been quoted saying that he would be nowhere near as successful and would have never found developed the equations that he did without her. So that's just one anecdotal part. But when you look at the actual productivity and efficiency of women, if you are a female surgeon, you are going to have better surgical outcomes. This has been studied numerous times, and statistically, female surgeons have better outcomes than male surgeons. They've also analyzed the top 500 companies, like Fortune 500, I think.
Yeah, but they're only 20% of surgeons.
Yeah, and so isn't that amazing that only 20% of women have better outcomes than 80% of men?
And they would be doing the majority of medical breakthroughs. They're not. They're not the majority.
But they are. The surgeries that they are doing and the work that they are doing is higher quality than the work that men are doing.
Okay. And I probably am pronouncing it wrong, but Maleva Merrick, Einstein's first wife, she was not given her diploma because she failed the exams at the Swiss Federal Institution of Technology. That is why she did not receive her diploma. It wasn't because she was a woman. It's because she failed the final exam.
Hold on, wait a minute. Let me. It gets better than that. Hold on a second. People forget that you could just look stuff up. Okay, so Maleva Einstein Merrick, Albert Einstein's first wife was a source of emotional and intellectual support for him during his early career. Whether she made significant contributions to his scientific work is a subject of debate. Collaborations. Some say she collaborated with Einstein on his 1905 relativity paper. Mathematical support. Others say that she solved all his mathematical problems. Intellectual support. She was trained in mathematics and physics alongside Einstein. The debate. However, many historians of physics argue that she made no significant scientific contributions. Critics argue that the letters between Einstein and Merrick provide insubstantial evidence of collaboration. Others argue that Einstein used her as a sounding board rather than a collaborator. We could dig deep into that, and I intend to, because at the end of the day, when people say things, a lot of the times the things that they say are not necessarily rooted completely in fact. A lot of times the things that you hear people say, they'll take it's that term conjecture, to where you'll take a nugget of truth and then you'll build a lie around it.
Yeah.
It's like I want to take two unrelated things and merge them together to build an argument. And I don't know if that's the case with that situation, but I do know that it's a case that it happens more often than not. Like I was giving somebody an example, and again, it's not negating Jesus, anything like that. I don't want anybody to get the wrong idea, but just kind of an understanding of how you can use conjecture. That if I use certain historical figures, like Pontius Pilate, or where he called on this, and this is like around the time that, okay, yeah, so according to the Bible, he was the one who initiated the hit on Jesus. Well, we have historical evidence validating that he existed. So now it's like, oh, well, if Pontius Pilate can be proven, then by default, if we could connect him and the
Right.
crucifixion together, although this could easily be a lie, and this over here could be used as a catapulting it could be used as a measure of trying to connect dots that aren't there. Just for thought process sake. But let's give them a little bit more into this real quick, and then we can give our final thoughts.
Just real quick, exams she failed. Exams. I just want to put that out there. More than one, plural.
And again, with him saying that is not a means of discrediting what she did. What it is saying that the inaccuracy of the statement that was brought up in regard to Albert Einstein's wife is not to take anything away from her or her significance to him. It's just that when people use certain things as a landing point to try to land a point and it doesn't fall, sometimes if you just take a couple of seconds to grab this $1,000 mobile device that everybody has in their possession and just fact check stuff, you'll realize how full of crap a lot of people are.
According to what, some study?
Multiple
If they could dominate the field, they would go do it.
Where's
Where's the female billionaires? All the female billionaires are rich off of men's money.
Yeah, so it's actually 80% of billionaires inherited their family's money, but that's beyond the point.
From a man or a woman?
From men, because historical
because
historical precedent.
Men are more productive.
Historical precedent, Pearl.
Okay, but we've had 50 years. Like, where is the female Elon Musk? Where is?
So they've actually analyzed the top 500 companies, and female CEOs, companies that are run by female CEOs outperform companies that are run by male CEOs. So as I've said before, if women were not historically stagnated and kept behind and banned from partaking in education in all of these industries, I would argue that our society would be better off. We would be safer, we'd be happier, we'd be more efficient, just based on the last 50 years where we have been able to partake at a higher level. And all of the statistics show that we are more successful than men when we compete with them. And we are still making up for the historical precedent in the past. And we do all of that while enduring discrimination, while enduring doubt, while enduring things like pregnancy and childbearing without maternal or maternity leave that's guaranteed. We're the only developed country in the world that doesn't have mandatory maternity leave. Like, our country is so broken on all of these levels, and we have so many other things that we could be talking about to improve society, but instead we're talking about like how men die on crab boats and they have to pay child support, when like arguably that is not the biggest issue that we have in our country.
So you think that we talk too much about men dying at work?
No, that's not what I said. I
That's
think
what
that's
you
an
just- that's
no,
what you
that's
just said.
no, I think that's an oversimplification of my statement.
Okay.
I want to buy your house. I can pay.
I actually did a little bit of research with Pearl, asking where is the female Elon. So according to this, and I'll go ahead and throw this up on the screen, I think it's pretty interesting. I know my head hurt too. So, friend Qua, is that how you say that?
Francis.
Is Francis Bentoncourt Myers?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. She's the granddaughter of this company, the guy that produced this company. That makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. That's the inventor, Eugene Schuler.
You see, one thing I always hate that people do is that you say what?
I said they are out there.
No, the thing that I hate is when we go to the extremes to try to make a point.
Mm.
It's like little Timmy playing ball in the park. You don't compare him to Michael Jordan.
Right.
You know, it's like it's like realistically a lot of the times where I get turned off a lot because being from a group of people that went through some of the things that we went through with segregation and slavery and all these other things, it's like sometimes when I hear people making those arguments, it's like, okay, as much as I'm not one of those people that like to delve off into victimology, it's like, let me pull my tiny violin out so you could tell me more about your women's oppression. Why don't you? Yeah, because the all female villages that been burned down, that so now underwater right now, where women were just thriving and men just came in and just burned y'all little neighborhoods down to the ground, where women were just living harmoniously, minding their own business. Like sometimes it's like cry me a river. I don't want to hear this crap because when you say these things as if you have not benefited from the privilege of men your entire lives. Like you still don't benefit from the privilege of men.
It was benefiting from the privilege of men in that interview, that chair she was sitting on, that microphone that she was using, all of the lights that was on in that apartment, the electricity that had laptop and recording equipment on.
again, let's not go to the extremes. Let's just use it based on the most easy to wrap your mind around example. That she even said out of her own mouth that past precedent by laws that were created by men give you this right. So if by default, if you can say that out of your own mouth, that you are directly benefiting from laws that were set in past precedent by men.
Yeah, she said that. Yeah.
How do you out of your mouth discuss the ills of a patriarchy that you directly benefit from, but then over here on this side of things, everything is wrong. So if I'm not benefiting directly, then there is a problem. That's all that I hear, is that are there problems? Sure. We start talking about, matter of fact, I want you to go back to that CEO, the one that earned more than Elon. This is one thing I want to see, because I just need to see her name again, if you don't mind. It's just one thing I want to see, and I promise there's a point to this. All right, so
Want me to do?
just hold still. So it's just, I just find it interesting when it was thrown in there about how women, how about how men that are in like that high earning stratosphere inherited their wealth. Meanwhile,
Say it right here.
the example that was given was that she inherited her wealth. So basically, what happened is, when you make these arguments, where are you going with them? Most wealthy people, like true wealthy people, they inherited their wealth either through life insurance, through passing down of companies, through market share, whatever have you. These things are how wealth is transferred through the generations. I'm not understanding. And yeah, Pearl was obviously offbeat with that, clearly, because again, the same Google search that she told old girl to do is the same one she could have did before she asked, "Where's the female Elon Musk?" Elon
Mhm.
Musk, he inherited what he inherited, went to go do the PayPal thing with his boys, took off, did his own thing, and now he's got Tesla. Okay, this is what happened. Donald Trump, he got some money from his old man back in the day. He took that, became a real estate developer, and now he's who he is today. Clearly, aside from a very small, microscopic group of people, or they want to say Andrew Carnegie, like he didn't start off in the best possible situation. What's the other one? JP Morgan didn't start off in the best situation. There's only a handful of people who did not come from something, that built something and was able to turn it over to create something else. Like that man's name is still thriving long after he was gone. I go to Chase right now, go slide my debit card, which none of this would exist. You know, the American Express, Wells Fargo, I can go slide my card because of what some men did a long time ago, which was all based on courier routes years ago in the Wild Wild West. People inherited these things. It happened. So sometimes sometimes I miss these points. And again, I don't be trying to practice the PPM, be a professional point misser. I just don't always understand where people are going with some of the things that they say.
Yeah, I do get lost in the mix of everything, because it's like we talking about this and then this gets thrown out, and it's like she did drop the ball on that particular instance right there, but that's okay. We picked it up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because this is why I think that conversations are best with moderators. But this is a perfect example of that statement that I love so much, that I only debate my equals, all else that I teach. You have two people that, one, she makes valid points in certain things that she says, but again, very surface level with the stuff that she says, and the other one is just extremely based and regurgitating talking points from feminist circles that are
Right.
very loosely interpreted and easily debunkable. But that's neither here nor there. Do you have any final thoughts for the people, sir?
No, I just think that people need to, as far as dating and things of that nature, when you come across an individual like this that have these type of deeply rooted ideologies and thought process and all that going on in their mind, like you can date whoever you want to date, but just understand that this ain't gonna go the way that you think it's gonna go. She's definitely one of the type that will marry you, and then 1-2 years in, y'all at the courthouse utilizing the same system that she's putting down, taking full advantage of the same system that she claim is oppressing women and everything. I would just say be careful, vet properly. It did look like there was a rock on her finger. Pray for you, brother,
Or sister, whoever she got.
whoever she got. But man,
My heart goes out. Once you if you are some guy that's got to deal with that, if it don't work out, man, you can always come to the channel where you can get spiritually fed. We got you, brother. Anyway,
sure. Yeah.
that's our time. Welcome to the POV. As always, Phil Jones, Mike Jones, have y'all know me professionally, and he shouldn't even have to get introduced. Y'all should know him already. Look, with a face like that, man, y'all should
Man.
be contracting him for everything. Like, he should be doing speaking engagements. He should be like, seriously, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, he's the other Me Too. It's just like, yo, I was on the red carpet. Me too. Like, that's what it should be.
Right.
You got a BET award. Me too. I don't even watch it, but they just gave me one.
They just gave me one. Like, I don't even know what I did.
I just woke up and they just thought I was great. I think said I look good and green. Like,
that's it. But Midas, make sure you put a king in front of that. Let's go. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, and click the bell, man. Leave all your thoughts and comments below, man. I appreciate y'all.